Good evening and welcome to the weekend. The day is Friday, the 24th of February 2023, and just on time for the Look Up Weekend News. I'm Nancy Nelima. The sign language interpreter for tonight is Felista Adundo. Do stay with us as we bring you the latest on stories that are making headlines across all of 47 counties and causing a lot of conversations. Before we get into the stories that we have been preparing for you, here are our top stories. Tonight on Look Up Weekend. U.S. First Lady Jill Biden arrives in the country for a 3-day visit to, among other things, address the dire hunger situation affecting 4 million Kenyans.
Launch of Taifa Gas project is a historic milestone on our journey to achieving self-sufficiency in clean, green energy, which is a critical component of our commitment to deliver rapid socio-economic transformation through clean, green growth.
President William Ruto announces plan to remove all taxes on cooking gas in a strategy to make cooking gas available to all Kenyans in the next 3 years.
Mahakama Kuu ilimpa Fred Matiang'i bond ya dhamana ya shilingi 200,000 asikamatwe, lakini iwapo atahitajika kwenda kuandikisha statement atakwenda.
Former Interior CS Fred Matiang'i's legal team rubbishes information about him being summoned by the DCI for grilling as mere allegations.
Accordingly, hereby sentence the accused person herein, Patrick Oitanyapara, to serve life imprisonment for the murder of Christine Maonga.
And a police officer in Kakamega charged with the murder of his lover 4 years ago, sentenced to death. Once more, welcome to the broadcast. The hashtag is Look Up Weekend. And you can also stream this live broadcast across our social media platforms as Lookuptv on Twitter, Facebook, and on our YouTube channel. Let's begin. The United States First Lady Jill Biden is in Kenya for a 3-day visit. Mrs. Biden touched down at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Friday afternoon. Her visit aims at supporting democracy, empower women and young children, and also cement the U.S. and Kenya ties. The First Lady of the United States, Jill Biden, arrived in Kenya on Friday afternoon for a 3-day visit as she continues with her 5-day tour of the African continent. Upon arrival, Ms. Biden was received by officials from the U.S. and Kenya led by First Lady Rachel Ruto. Her visit aims to support democracy, empower women and young people, and also cement ties of the United States and Africa at a time when other nations are drawing in to form relationships with the continent. Jill Biden is visiting Kenya from Friday to Sunday to strengthen America's partnerships with Kenya and the African continent. In addition to focusing on women and children, she will draw attention to the dire food insecurity in the region. In Kenya, Jill Biden will meet and engage with those affected by drought and facing food insecurity. The United States First Lady's trip in the continent is her first trip to Africa since taking office. Remember, Lookuptv will be right here to bring you up to speed with all the trips and, of course, all the engagements that Jill Biden will be making around the country, all up until Sunday. And after some education matters, 200,000 students who sat for the Grade 6 KPSEA examination are here to report for the junior secondary school education almost a month since the transition of the first cohort. This comes amidst concern that over 20% reported missing students are yet to transition to Form 1. Elumubora Working Group has continued to caution the government's intent in bridging the gap in order to restore public confidence, especially among a section of parents who are opting to have their children skip Grade 7 to embark on the 844 system.
100% transition to junior secondary school has become an uphill task for the government and parents across the country. Over 200,000 students have not yet transitioned to junior high, with reasons ranging from inadequate facilitation needed for the proper transition to lack of confidence in the new curriculum.
There is still a huge gap in provision of the physical infrastructure in most public schools, including inadequate, insufficient or non-existent buildings and furniture, and this is compounded by their accessibility for learners and teachers with disability. Most primary schools do not have curriculums material for delivery of the junior secondary school, especially grade 7. Teaching and learning materials including teaching aids, textbooks, exercise books, blackboards, chalks, dusters, etc.
According to the TSC, the government recruited 30,000 teachers for JSS, a number that cannot equate to the public primary schools in the country. Head teachers to the various primary schools, however, had asked the TSC to increase the number, citing the high public school teacher-student ratio.
A majority of the schools have still not restructured their management and administration to accord with domiciling of the junior secondary school in primary school.
What yardstick is the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform using to declare that the grade 7 learners have successfully transitioned? Because that is really a gaping concern.
The government must forthwith stop using children as pawn by putting them through a chaotic, ill-thought out and rushed to education system. It must be fixed, because without that, Kenyans will be in despair and will see and cannot watch the suffering of their children in these public institutions.
Most public primary schools remain ill-prepared for the demands of the digital learning program, with the government expected to account for the more than 200,000 students that are yet to report to the junior secondary schools.
26 days down the line, in grade 6, 100% transition to junior secondary school has continued to be marred by a myriad of challenges that have rendered learning in public primary schools paralyzed. Elimu Bora Working Group continues to urge the government to fast-track a course analysis that will go an extra mile to revive learning in institutions. Cecilia Lubanga, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Thank you, Lubanga, for that story. Moving on, the Federation of Kenya Employers now wants the government to relook. I'll just take that again. The Federation of Kenya Employers now wants the government to relook the NSSF Act of 2013, as our reporter Phoebe Wangombe now reports.
As the cost of living continues to rise, with approximately 85% of Kenyans depending on informal employment, the Federation of Kenya Employers has called on the Kenya Kwanza government to look for alternative ways that will boost the bleeding economy. Speaking in Nairobi, the Federation heads have called on the Ruto-led government to involve social groups in discussions on reviving businesses in the country.
We would want to state that the employers are appealing to the government to provide a stable, predictable, and less costly operating environment. The government needs to commit to long-term development plans and to give adequate time for businesses to adjust their budgets when policies are introduced in the labor sector. We also call upon the government to work towards removing the red tape and barriers to business operations, productivity, and growth.
While referring to shortage of employment in the country, especially among the youth, the Federation has proposed the consideration of removing labor tax that is making the cost of employment high.
When you earn money and you pay tax by way of pay as you earn, that income is already taxed, and we are appealing that pension not be taxed, because it then defeats the very idea we are having, which is a good one, of encouraging Kenyans to save for their pensions. Pensions should be exempted from taxation unless we want to tax the element of interest that one would have earned from that pension.
Additional NSSF charges are still a subject of debate among employers, with many unaware of its implementation process.
We did appeal for the period of implementation of the Act to be pushed back. This is one of the requests we have made and will continue to appeal for, to give employers time, because we are seeing that remitting contributions next month will pose challenges, and we are looking forward to having agreement on what a reasonable time frame is for us to be able to say that yes, we are now ready to implement the changes to the NSSF Act 2013.
The call comes after social groups and different political factions pressurizing the Kenya Kwanza government to reduce the cost of living by lowering prices of basic commodities. Samedika, Lookuptv.
And the legal team representing former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has dismissed claims that Matiang'i was ordered to appear before the DCI on Friday to clarify the alleged raid at his home early this month. Led by lawyer Dunstan Omari, the team says Matiang'i has not received any formal directive to appear before the DCI for grilling, even as he confirmed the former CS is doing well. Phoebe Wangombe now reports.
For the better part of Thursday, information was rife in the media that Dr. Fred Matiang'i had been summoned to appear before the intelligence agency DCI to record a statement in respect with his statement that police had raided his home. Come Friday morning, the DCI headquarters in Kiambu remained quiet as Dr. Fred Matiang'i failed to show up. His legal team, led by Dunstan Omari, will later in the day address the media dismissing claims that Dr. Matiang'i was supposed to appear before the DCI. Omari termed such claims as pure rumors, revealing his client had no knowledge of a formal summon from the Directorate.
A proper summon under the National Police Service Act must be signed and witnessed by police officers. Show me one where the police have signed, similar to mine, where there were 3 signatures of police officers. 2, a summon must be served in person to the person it is targeted. Show me a summon that has been served to Dr. Fred Matiang'i and he has put a signature there, or his advocate has put a signature there, or his wife has put a signature there, or his worker has put a signature there.
Omari and his team insisting that the law is clear regarding the process of issuing summons and that investigative agencies must adhere to such laws.
The court order from the High Court does not stop the CS from being investigated. He has nothing to hide. But the investigation must be done within the law.
Dr. Fred Matiang'i has found himself at crossroads with the security department and has been on the trail of DCI, which remains convinced Dr. Matiang'i fabricated a story of police raid at his premises.
You can see the new DCI, his mode of operation. A complete departure that proves completely somebody incompetent, somebody who doesn't know how the law is to be applied in service of summons. So, my client, when he will be served within the law, he will be the first one to appear before any investigative agency in this country. So any narrative to show Dr. Matiang'i as somebody who is not ready to comply with the police is politics, is hot air from the DCI, and that is why we have put it to the attention of the whole country that show us where the service is and show us a summon that has been signed.
The appointment of Mr. Mohammed Amin as the DCI was done as the law so requires. So it is our expectation that everything that he will do so as and in accordance with the law. If he continues failing to respect and obey the law or obeying the law, then we will be forced to use the very mechanisms that have set him in that office to have him removed from that office.
Lawyers representing former Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i have said that Matiang'i is ready to appear before any investigative agencies as long as the summons made in regards to the investigations are done within the law. Reporting for Lookuptv, Phoebe Wangombe, Nairobi.
Thank you, Phoebe, for that report. President William Ruto on Friday launched the Taifa cooking gas factory in Dongo Kundu in Mombasa. The move aims at reducing the cost of liquefied petroleum gas in the country in the next 3 years, as Edwin John Mukora now reports.
While 70% of the Kenyan population still uses firewood for their daily cooking, President William Ruto has lauded the project, saying it will help in reducing the effects of climate change that is contributed by cutting down of trees, and also save many Kenyans from respiratory diseases caused by the smoke from the firewood.
I've also instructed the Minister for Energy to make sure that Kenya Pipeline Company invests in another 45-ton storage facility of gas so that we can transition in a faster, safer trajectory into cooking gas in our country to minimize health issues, to save our forests, and to minimize our carbon footprint as we go towards green energy by 2030.
Ruto has said the use of green energy will help many households in improving their standards of living. The president also said that this government is keen on reducing the cost of cooking gas and make it accessible to all Kenyans in the next 3 years. This is after the cost of the cooking gas has been skyrocketing in the recent past, making it not affordable to many Kenyans, making them opt for alternative cooking methods.
Yale maidara yote ya serikali pamoja na shule zetu kufikia mwaka wa 2025 tutakuwa tumewasaidia kama serikali, badala ya kutumia kuni kwa upishi watakuwa wanatumia gas. And we are going to make sure that all our institutions of higher learning, all our boarding schools, all our institutions transit from using wood fuel that is decimating our forests into using gas that is cleaner, that is healthier, and that is much more environmentally useful.
The project, which will boost bilateral ties between Kenya and Tanzania, has been welcomed by the leaders from the area who say it is an opportunity for the residents to get employed.
Kenya na Tanzania tumefungua ukurasa mpya. Mwezi ujao Rais Suluhu anatuma mawaziri wake wakae chini na sisi kuangalia mambo ya infrastructure, kuangalia mambo ya kawi na kuangalia mambo ya biashara.
Tunajua wewe msemo wako ilikuwa ni kusema na kutenda. Tunataka hizi ajira zifaidishe kwanza wakazi wa Likoni constituency.
Edwin John Mokora, Lookuptv.
Thank you, Mokora, for that story. Ribathiba in Embu has dried up. This has caused an alarm for residents who depend on the river, with leaders from the Mbeere South and Embu County calling upon Resources Management Authority WARMER to regulate the water flow that has been cut short due to uncontrolled farming activities in Kirinyaga. Abigail Shira with that story.
For the first time in the history of this river, rocks and hyacinth are seen in place of the healthy brook that was once a spring for domestic use and farming. The green-colored water that is now flowing is from the rice plantation in Mwea, making it unsafe for consumption. As drought hit different parts of the country, residents of Mbeere South and Embu County also bear the burden as the streams they depend on have dried up. Farmers in the affected areas are calling on the county government to address this issue.
Mimi ni mkulima wa miraa. Hata pengine saa ingine tunalima melon na mishiri. Na ile maji tunatumia kulima ni hii dhidha. Na saa hii hatuwezi sababu kumekauka. Sasa ile maombi tunaomba gavana wetu Sisire Barire afadhali aongee na huyu madamu wetu gavana wa Kirinyaga Mubi wa Igoro, in case at least ile damu tunasikia imefungiwa huko, maji kidogo tu iwachiliwe, kwa sababu ile maji tunaambiwa saa nyingine imewachiliwa huko ni inalima mchede, na ile inakuja kutoka kwa msheri kwa Mwea ni maji inakuja kama ikiwa green kabisa, hata hiyo maji wewe tumia kwa kunywa.
The situation is worse as residents explain. This has been the water they have been relying on for domestic use since there is no tap water in their residences.
Hii maji tunakunywa huku kwetu Mbeere South, hatuna maji ya mferenzi. Ile maji tunayatumia ni hii ya mto hii. Na wakati huu inakunywa na mtu kama hajasamushwa, manake ikichotwa ipelekwe nyumbani, mtoto hata ngojea ishamushwe. Hata ule anayosamusha wakati mwingine anasahau, anakuja na haraka. Lakini sasa vile iko hata kunywa ni hatari, manake unaona ina rangi green juu.
A consultative meeting with the relevant authorities has pointed at the farmers in Kirinyaga County who have caused blockage of the water from flowing down to Mbeere South.
When discussing with Walma why the river is drying up, the discussion pointed a finger to the farmers, those ones who are doing irrigation along the river, including the National Irrigation Board, which is doing irrigation at Mwea rice irrigation scheme, and other small-scale irrigation schemes along Rupingazi and even Nyamindi River.
Regional leaders now want quick action before they lead their people in taking action on their own hands.
Naomba tusikane pamoja, watu wa Kenya mahali hapa imetoka. Ikileta shida tutaenda pale. Tuone ni kweli ama maji imepungua ama inapungua.
Kirinyaga residents who use the river have been accused of denying other communities the opportunity to use the water by blocking the flow through their farming activities.
Hawa watu wakipariki bila maji, na hiyo maji ndio tunategemea pia kwa wale wakulima kidogo wanaweza kupata maji ndio wanatumia, inakuwa ya kwamba hakuna maji. Hiyo inaumiza, number one, inaumiza wenye mashamba, number two, inaumiza hata mifugo, sababu napata mifugo pia haina pahali ya kukunywa maji.
River Dhiba can be revived back to its glorious state if only the authorities in charge take on their mandate and focus on making the water flow again and fill its empty streams. Abigail Shira, Lookuptv.
And we are taking a very short break here on the program, but you keep your comments and your feedback coming in. I'll be sampling some of them at the tail end of this bulletin. There's so much more on the other side, including a lot of sporting action. Don't go too far.
Welcome to the Golden Marriage Show.
Somebody said when you see a man and a woman driving in a car and they are talking and smiling,
That's not the wife.
No, that's not the wife.
This is the time when my wife was heavily pregnant.
These people have been in marriage for 28 years without a child.
If a problem has come, let us come out and see how are we going to solve this problem.
I said in my marriage, mke wangu hataona mangumi na makofi na mateke.
Muda hii yote tumekaa kweli 45 years, hajawahi kunichapa.
Hello, yes, can I make a Valentine order? Tapo, yes, 2 flowers, 2 dresses, and a sparkling red shoes. Tapo, alafu payment ni single wewe. Tapo Valentine, what about?
Mwezi huu wa mapenzi, spread the love na Lotto Valentine's Double. Jishindie pesa taslim guaranteed kati ya shilingi 200,000 na shilingi 1,000,000 ndani ya daily draw, na mpenzi wako wa Valentine's atapata pesa kama hizo. Hii Valentine's prizes ni kibao. Kuna 10 fully paid couples holidays kila wiki kwenda Mombasa, Diani, Mount Kenya, Masai Mara na Naivasha. Sambaza upendo na Lotto na ujishindie hadi shilingi 100,000,000 ndani ya mega jackpot. Changamka, cheza Lotto. Tuma kati ya shilingi 50 na shilingi 1,000 kwa paybill number 77700, account name Luke. Changamka, cheza Lotto Valentine's Double.
Over 18s only. Gaming can be addictive. Play responsibly. This message has been approved by the BCLB.
Tonight on Real and Raw.
You would be very happy to see me date your sister.
We are having a conversation that imeshika, we are watching football and things like that. Nasikia it's late in the night. Then she calls you and asks you, unajua Malu jamaa yuko mko naye? Are you going to say by the way uko kwenu mnasemanga afike saa 4?
This guy is so irresponsible. Chukua mizigo yako bwana.
That simply says you cannot be a legit bro. No. How?
Those codes do not make sense. Have friends
if you have a problem with
friends who have a direction.
No, if you have a problem with lying, then
who can help you, who can shape you.
Would you rather you break that woman's heart and have her leave now watoto waende waanze kusumbuka huko nje just
tell her the
because
naked truth.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for keeping it. Lookuptv, the hashtag is LookUpWeekend. And it's one way to usher your weekend with us as we keep you informed. Let's head over to the corridors of justice. A Kakamega court has sentenced to death an administrative police officer who allegedly shot his lover at Navaholo 4 years ago. Patrick Nyapara allegedly shot his 24-year-old girlfriend Christine Maonga, who was a primary school teacher, in the head after an argument. Take a look.
It has been 4 years in pursuit of justice for their kin, and now they can breathe a sigh of relief after what looked like delayed justice was finally delivered. Judge William Musyoka said after listening to all parties involved, he found the suspect guilty, sentencing him to death, which translates to life in prison.
But I think I have said enough to show that the accused person deserves the maximum penalty available in the circumstances, notwithstanding that he is still young, is a first offender and remorseful. The maximum penalty is death, as I've said earlier, but Muruatetu has declared it unconstitutional. That leaves the court with the sentence of life imprisonment. Accordingly, hereby sentence the accused person.
IPOA, we mostly give a lot of credit to IPOA because at the beginning, when there was an issue with the police file that had been provided for court, IPOA stepped in a very, very strong way, and they provided us with the best base for this case. We thank all the witnesses, we thank IPOA, and today we will thank the judge for having meted out the life sentence on the accused person in this matter.
It is a family that still bears the burden of losing a loved one, calling on the government to streamline the police sector, reflecting on how it has been 4 years of nothing short of torture.
I want to request if the government can hear, so that in the future, let them not employ askaris who got D's and D pluses. Let them go to school first, get degrees, become professional, so that they can be employed. But the idea of an askari just being taken, then given a bunduki to go and work, to me it is very wrong. Because if he was professional, then he would not have killed this lady. He has caused a lot of injustice to the family.
How I wish, how I pray that the government compensates us for that 6 years that Christine was supposed to work as a teacher. How I wish that they compensate us for all the family expenditures that the family has put into this court process. And the stress, the trauma that we went through, it's immeasurable. We have no words to explain.
A father that lost his daughter struggles to express himself, fighting back tears as his voice breaks. 4 years down the line, reality dawns on him that his child is no more, and even justice delivered will not bring back a child they depended on, and now their hopes seem to have been buried along with her.
Justice has come out, yes, but I still believe the askaris, Kenya police, who are fond of killing our younger kids, should reform. I would want to describe him as like a wild beast, because somebody you are sharing with her in the house, maybe the bed, and you plan to kill her in a brutal life, in a brutal way, the way she did. To me, I feel our Kenyan askaris should be trained how to live.
Sijui serikali itatusaidia aje kwa sababu tuko na mtoto marehemu alimwacha kama ako na miaka 3, saizi amefikisha miaka 7, na sisi ndio tunakaa na yeye, na hatujui serikali itatusaidiaje kulea huyu mtoto ama kulinda ama security ya huyu mtoto itakuwaje.
It is a process the family says was tedious, but one that saw the light of day thanks to different groups that offered assistance to see justice delivered. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Thank you, Brian Amwai, for that story. And now let's head over to the counties. Residents of Kajiado County woke up to a horrific scene where over 200 goat heads dumped by the roadside. Residents are now calling on the government to help in securing the area. Gladys Bashara reports on this and more stories in our county roundup.
In Kajiado West Sub-County, over 100 heads and other body parts of goats were found dumped at Kirima village. The residents in the area claim that there has been a large number of livestock thefts reported lately and are calling on to the government to help curb the insecurity in that area.
Simu na rafiki yangu akaniambia kuna mbuzi zimepotea na kuna mbuzi zimechinjwa. Tukakuja tukapata hapa mbuzi zaidi ya 200, vichwa, mara, mahuri, kila kitu ya mbuzi yani zilikuwa zimetupwa na hakukuwa na mwenyewe.
Onekana usalama umesorota.
Elsewhere, protests outside the Kiambu County offices broke out after a group of disabled persons tried to force their way inside the county offices, demanding to be paid their dues. The persons living with disabilities say that they were awarded a 3.8 million tender during the tenure of former Kiambu Governor Dr. James Nyoro to construct a road in Limuru, which they completed but they were never paid.
Tuliamua tuje sisi sote tuliogaramika katika hiyo barabara na tumeweza kungengana mpaka tukaweza kumuona governor na ametupea masikio yake na tuna hope Kenya tumemwambia na Kenya ametuambililia atatimiza.
The protesters claim that they had visited the offices over 10 times during the former governor's Nyoro's term and did not get any audience with him.
Tumekuwa tukikuja hapa siku mingi, tunajaribu kubook appointment na governor, inakosekana. So ndio tumekuja kudai hapa na ni makosa kubwa governor ama county government ya Kiambu kwa inatubagua. Tunasikia wengine wanalipwa, wengine wanapewa chance ya kuwaona na sisi hatupewi.
The current Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi heeded to their demands after a confrontation with the police officers manning the county offices promised to look over the issue, which he said was part of the 7 billion pending bills that his government was now struggling to offset.
Nikikuja kwa county nilifikiri itakuwa tofauti hapo. Kufika kule, I found my first day in office, I was introduced to the office with a bill of more than 7 billion.
According to the spokesperson, he claimed that it was difficult with their condition to work for the government of the county without pay and was struggling to put food on their table and pay school fees since they had invested in the project, yet there were no yields to their hard work. Gladys Masharia, Lookuptv.
Let's now get sporty. The second leg of the athletics track kicked off today at Nyayo National Stadium with 10,000 meters over